Robin, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
I really appreciate you taking the time. NFTs, blockchain, it's a buzz. Everyone's talking about it right now, whether we're talking about music or art or cryptocurrency, privacy. It's really driving a lot of conversations across fintech. How did you get into the space and what are you working on right now?
Well, I've been in blockchain since 2015 when I first came across the whole Bitcoin thing. Um, I was quite intrigued by that, and being a bit of a very curious person, and then I like to investigate things. So I even actually licensed a crypto exchange platform.
Wow.
Just so I could, go in the back end and dig around and understand, what this crypto thing was and how it, worked, how people were trading it, and all the mechanics of that. So we never actually opened the exchange, to actually do business. So it was more of a learning thing for me, and it was quite fascinating. But my focus arising out of that and understanding the blockchain and its potential and so on, led me to follow the objective of using blockchain as a tool for economic empowerment, if you will, as an alternative to the legacy world economy, which is very constrictive and restrictive, to the majority of, people around the world.
So why don't let's dive into that a little bit. So is that the curiosity part that originally got your conversation and got you in, or your attention and got you involved?
Yes, but I've always been a fan of technology, even from a teenager. So I'm always on the lookout for what's new, what's emerging, and that kind of stuff in the technology arena. So, it was kind of surprising to me that it took till 2015, or was it 13? I think it was 2015. 20, somewhere around there though, 2014, 2015, that Bitcoin came on my radar. But I'm usually earlier than that when something is emergent. So, but yeah, it was my curiosity around the technology, the new technology, that got me into it in the first place. Yeah.
And then and this is something that it's a thread that tends to run through the whole blockchain world and everything that's attached to it, but everybody has a different reason. So when you're talking about the shifting of power structures, what does that sound like? What does that mean?
The legacy world economy has various constructs, that keep the average man in the street away from wealth generation opportunity. Right? You have to have a critical mass of wealth in order to get access to the best opportunities and so on. There is a lack of education for the average man in the street with respect to how they can potentially better themselves rather than just this this treadmill thing of go get a job or even work two jobs to try to get ahead or whatever. But crypto creates a whole new dynamic that gives people the opportunity to plug into a different economic system that is more fair and equitable. I know the mantra in blockchain is about decentralization, and that's what a lot of the philosophical proponents of blockchain tend to focus on. But for me, it's not so much the decentralization than the empowerment that it gives the average individual. But there needs to be education of those individuals as to what is possible and how to go about it safely, and optimally.
So for people listening, what does the empowerment look like? What opportunities can they take advantage of if they spend time learning this stuff?
Well, there are a lot of different directions that people can go in, but unfortunately, the one that most people tend to gravitate to is this whole speculation on the value increase, of various altcoins and so on.
Can you define altcoin for us?
Well, my understanding of an altcoin, in terms of the actual term that was coined, is any blockchain token that is not fully backed by its own blockchain and is just like an ERC20 token or on Ethereum or what have you. So a project, somebody's doing a project on music or whatever, and they say, oh, well, we're going to create a token, and that becomes an altcoin, and they get it listed on a few exchanges or whatever the case may be. That's my understanding and definition of an altcoin.
And is it the speculation that you're saying is unfortunate?
Yes, because people, go into it from the standpoint of a lottery ticket. So they're just switching from buying the traditional lottery ticket to buying an altcoin lottery ticket, in essence.
Right.
But there are ways to build more, more stability and value if people would take the time, to study the technology and to think about creating value rather than getting rich quickly.
For sure.
Yeah.
So what when you're having these kinds of conversations and you're maturing someone's thought process, what are you telling them? What are you talking about with them?
Well, I try to shift their perspective from making a quick buck to creating value. So in other words, take the focus off of yourself and put the focus on others. Who are you going to impact? So
it's
even
interesting.
Even in the NFT space, all of these artists who may only have been making a few dollars here and there before the NFT scenario, you're piling into the space, and a lot of them are just saying, "Oh, wait, I can finally get paid for my art. What can I throw out there? Digging through everything, just pile it on there and see what I can get coming back into me," kind of thing. So it's all about what they can get. They're not thinking in terms of what value can I deliver. So rather than just clogging up the marketplace with, whatever art they can put their hands on or turn out every week or whatever, with an inward focus, how can I make what I'm doing something really impactful for everyone? That yes, while I get paid, I'm actually transforming people's lives. And that's the shift that I would like to see people make.
So is it more focusing on, so if you're looking at an NFT drop, then it's building community, creating long-term value, and building relationship that's longer lasting rather than just, hey, I created a picture, a quick video, buy my stuff. Is that what you're getting at?
Well, that's a start, but that's only the surface of what is possible. And again, it comes down to education. So if you're an artist and you decide, oh, you just want to understand enough of the technology to know how to actually go on a platform and mint an NFT and list it for sale, then you're doing yourself and your potential buyers and so on a disservice, because you only want to know how to get it out there and get to that point of a transaction sale, right? You don't want to understand the full depth of what is possible with the technology so that you can maximize the value that you create for the end user. And that is what I would like to encourage and help the global NFT community, to move to. But, you have to start somewhere, and I'm not, trying to disparage people, but I'm just trying to encourage them to kind of take a step back and consider what they're doing and understand that they are barely scratching the surface of what NFTs can do, right? And to get a better understanding of that and continue challenge themselves to move upward and upward and upward in terms of the value that they can create and deliver via NFTs.
most of the people that listen to this podcast are into tech, but even tech people, because there's so much going on, they may not know. Maybe 20% instead of 5% of the public knows what an NFT is. Can you fill us in on what that means and what it does?
What mean an NFT?
Mm-hmm. And how it ties into the blockchain?
I see a lot of definitions floating around on the web. You
Sure.
know, journalists who not really familiar with blockchain and so on, they pick around, they find a definition that they like, and they just use that. And there's a lot of dissemination of an accurate representation of what an NFT is. Some technical people, they want to go down the road that an NFT is a smart contract or whatever, but I've seen implementations that claim not to have an NFT. Sorry, not to have a smart contract associated. But what my definition of an NFT is formed by breaking it down to what the fundamental basis is, the lowest common denominator. So one of the common things people say, oh, an NFT is a certificate of authenticity, or an NFT is a certificate of ownership. Right? But what you need to really think of it as is an immutable, transferable repository of rights. At the end of the day, you're dealing with the assignment of rights. Okay, so ownership is a right, right? Authenticity is one aspect of that ownership, the verification of that ownership. But the purpose of the NFT is to deliver rights. So you have the right of ownership of this piece of artwork, or you have the right to X or Y physical product. You have the right to access this service or this physical domain or this virtual world or whatever the case may be. This is all about rights, right? And the whole value of it is that NFT rights package is both non-fungible and immutable on the blockchain. So it's very unique, and it's not interchangeable for rights to something else. So for me, it's an immutable, transferable rights repository at its base level, right? And then once people understand that, rather than just saying, oh, certificate of ownership, then they could understand, wow, we can have rights for so many different things. The sky's the limit. And therefore, instead of just being that one thing in the creator's mind, they now have the understanding that they can layer and layer and layer all sorts of different rights into an NFT and create exponential value rather than just, flipping GIF, or a nice visual graphic designer or whatever to look at.
Yeah, I've seen where you have some of the digital art that goes out, and then some of that secondary value outside of. So you have the secondary value to the artist if they have written in a smart contract that they get a percentage of future sales.
Royalties, yeah.
So for people listening, so Kanye West, he sells some Yeezys. It sells for, let's call it 300, but later on sells for 2,000. He gets a cut of that 300 sale, not to 2,000. But if it were tied into an NFT, he could. So that's cool. But then there's owner value rights where, say you buy digital art, that increases in value, which is its own thing. But then maybe there's a collaboration with a shoe company or some other sort of retailer, and only the holders of those particular tokens will receive that product. So now there's physical and digital value, which is really fascinating on like your concept of stacking rights and being able to increase value down the line. Now, with the cost of Ethereum and Bitcoin, what is the potential? How does the everyday person insert themselves? And like once they have education, how do they get involved?
Well, Ethereum is not the only game in town.
Right.
So the gas issue, really isn't a problem if you're prepared to look at other blockchains out there. I tend to personally favor Stellar blockchain, which not a lot of people in the NFT space are focused on or talking about at this point in time. But they have a fixed fee for minting, and the fees on the Stellar blockchain are, ridiculously low, 0.0000001 or something like that. As transaction fees on the network. And to mint on one of the platforms, the NFT platforms on Stellar, I think it's like $1.50 US
That's a good deal
per NFT. So, there are platforms other than Ethereum that creators can go on and create significant value and not have to deal with those, those high fees in the Ethereum ecosystem. Yes, Ethereum has more users and so on, and a lot more publicity and what have you. But if you build a good portfolio of NFTs on these other chains, and you do solid promotion and marketing, you can get very good response as well to what it is you're creating and offering.
So having spent about 6 years in this space, what is it that you're pushing into and really curious about right now?
Well, I wouldn't say curious. Well, curious, there is some curiosity in terms of what other innovations from a technological standpoint that people are bringing to the table, because I see different platforms being introduced where people are claiming different value propositions rather than the mainstream NFT platform. Some are saying, well, we give you what is true ownership of the asset versus a superficial pseudo ownership that you might get on OpenSea or what have you, where they're claiming that the ownership on OpenSea is superficial because the centralized OpenSea network or whatever, they can kick you off of their network or, otherwise censor what you're doing and so on and so forth. And other platforms are coming out with special types of wallet, whether it's a hard wallet or a software wallet for NFTs and so on. So these are the kinds of innovations that I'm looking into at the moment because I'm an ecosystem thinker, right? And I like to find the best value in each area and pull them all together to create what I call extraordinary value propositions, or XVPs, right? Which is this whole thing about layering value. One person doesn't have to do everything, but if you can go out there and find compatible solutions that can be brought together to create exponential value, then that's where you change the game and differentiate yourself highly from what other people are doing. So that's always been my focus, regardless of whether it's blockchain or non-blockchain endeavors. So in this particular space, that is most definitely my focus as we work on our NFT venture.
And can you tell us a little bit about your company and what you're accomplishing there?
Well, the company is Smartr Joint Venture Capital Corporation, Smartr for short, Smartr. And on a macro level, we are focused on accelerating sustainability adoption on a global level. So this is about social, economic, and environmental sustainability in alignment with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. But blockchain is our playground for achieving, for accelerating the achievement of these sustainability goals. So what we're doing there is leveraging NFTs now, because that was the missing component. We've created models and so on around blockchain for this economic empowerment and so on in the past. We were going down that whole ICO road, STOs and so on. But then the whole securities aspect and all of the legal hurdles that you have to get over automatically eliminated the masses. And we really want to get to the masses and empower the masses with blockchain technology. So that security construct was a huge hurdle, right? But with the NFTs, we now have a mechanism that allows us to engage the masses without any worries about, securities regulations and so on. Not that some NFTs can't be determined to be securities, but we understand what it is that would turn an NFT into security, and we avoid that at this point in time, because certainly in the future, we would want to engage institutional investors and so on in some other NFT-based initiatives that will incorporate securities. But with our initial focus on the masses and reaching, the mainstream consumer, we're completely avoiding the securities aspect of it, leveraging NFTs as an economic empowerment tool by, again, layering value into the NFTs that we are creating for the consumer.
And what are some of these projects that are connecting with the consumer that helps with some of these both your goals and UN's goals for the betterment of humanity?
So our overarching NFT project is what we call the Smarter Cities Economic Transformation Initiative, where we're looking at going into different cities around the world with an NFT event and NFT products, offerings, and so on. That allows the local communities to plug into what we're doing. The construct that we're using to reach out to these people is a club, the NFT club, as we call it. And then around that is an NFT event, which we'll be announcing at the beginning of next month, January, formally. That will see us spend 3 weeks in a different city every few months, promoting NFTs, the movement, engaging stakeholders in the NFT space, from marketplace owners to people who are investing in it at a VC level or institutional level, and so on, creative artists who are involved, and the average person on the street who's now hearing about it or trying to dabble in it, and so on. So it's about making NFTs real in the real world, and not just something that you mess around with on a laptop or your phone, sitting on your sofa. But to get into the impact part of it, we are demonstrating to the NFT community globally how to go about leveraging NFTs for impact while still making your revenue and so on. So for example, we are creating NFTs in different categories. One of those is fashion, streetwear. Okay, so let's say we create a bomber jacket with our own design and so on it, and what have you. So we sell that as an NFT. So yes, there's an image of the bomber jacket attached to the NFT as quote unquote art.
Right.
But when you buy that NFT, you actually get the physical bomber jacket. But we don't stop there with that value. So to add economic empowerment value now, we also embed what we call reproduction and reseller rights into that same NFT for that bomber jacket. So the bomber jacket is auctioned, and let's say somebody ends up paying $2,000 for that bomber jacket, or whatever the number is. The license can then say, okay, well, just multiply whatever you paid for the bomber jacket by 10 or whatever, and then that is the number of units of this bomber jacket that you can now buy from us at wholesale and sell at our approved retail price. So you can say, wow, I know, so many people on Facebook and so on that would love one of these jackets. And you're telling me that I can get it at, kind of like 50% off retail and sell it on to these people. So that's the economic empowerment value there. So yes, they may have spent $2,000, $1,500 on the auction to buy the NFT, and now they have the potential to make $50,000, $500,000 or whatever from owning that NFT without having to flip it, in a secondary market sale. So they maintain the original NFT ownership. but they now have the opportunity to create NFTs, derivative NFTs from that, and sell those NFTs of the product to someone else. And even the persons who are buying it on a secondary level from this original NFT owner, if they bought it at the retail price of say $200, they still get reproduction reseller rights, maybe of only 200 units, right? A smaller amount. But they too can make money reselling that product to their own network. So it's a trickle down effect, right? And people would rather spend $200 on, or $500 or $1,000 on a swimsuit or a jacket or whatever, if they know that they can now turn that into $10,000 or $100,000 through their own effort and their network. Mm-hmm.
It sounds like a physical version of influencer marketing. So you have a certain amount of popularity or social cachet, and people are attracted to that bomber jacket or your cool shoes, your hat, the new gloves, whatever, and people want to get some of those, and you're able to transact that relationship. There's more direct benefit to more people just by being themselves.
Yes. So it's about sharing the economic value of the product with as many people as possible, right? And you would, as the creator of that original product, rather than saying, well, you can buy this product on this website and everybody has to come there and buy it at the wholesale price. By doing it this way, you can actually reach more people more quickly because people are excited to share it because they are gonna, gain from it. So it's kind of like an inverted affiliate program.
Sure.
Model. But the thing is, people do not have to come and buy the wholesale units in a bunch or whatever. They don't even have to stock inventory or anything, right? Because all of that is handled on our end. All they have to do is find the buyers for their allotment of the wholesale NFT product that we give them.
And would that run through a platform? Like how would they go, yeah, just buy this NFT?
Okay. So let's say for argument's sake, we had it on OpenSea.
Okay.
So they buy it on OpenSea, and when they unlock the unlockable content part of it, they get, the agreement for wholesale and so on. They can choose to activate it or ignore it. So if they ignore it, then they're the only person in the world with this bomber jacket. But if they see, when they go through the information and they see what they can make, because all of that would be explained, they would then say, oh, well, I definitely want to activate this, right? And get these bomber jackets out there and start generating some revenue from that, right? So it becomes an income stream for them as long as they promote it. And that's why it's not a security. They're the ones who have to go out there, all right, and solicit the sales for it. But if you were just saying that, okay, just buy this as NFT and then sit back and we're going to go out there and sell your wholesale allotment for you and whatever, then that would make it a security, right? Because they're dependent on us as the promoter to generate the revenue for them.
With more brands being focused on sustainability and transparency and ties into specific causes that their customers are attracted to, I can see where something like this would create a lot of brand loyalty.
Absolutely. And the economics make sense as well, because if if the original buyer of the NFT gets 20,000 units to sell or whatever, right? And then that is put out there as NFTs on the same OpenSea or wherever else, right? With the same value proposition behind it, then you get 20,000 sales, and those 20,000 sales can then turn into 200,000 additional rights holders out there pushing that same product around the world. So it's viral, right? And even though we would only be getting a smaller amount from each one, if you're getting $20 or $50 from 2 million sales within 1 month, that's better than getting 100% of the revenue from just 2,000 sales in the same month.
Right.
And you're touching a lot of lives at the same time.
So does that become, do you see it as a sales channel? So what I'm getting at is you have your NFT, you're doing the bomber jacket. Do you do it as NFT only as part of that drop? Or do you compete with the sales in some way by selling at high-end retail as well on your e-commerce site or through social platforms? Have you had any dialogue with brands around what that would look like?
Um, all of that is possible. It just depends on what rights we choose to put in the NFT for the original buyer. So we may say you can have 2,000 units at wholesale price, but you must list them as an NFT. You can't buy them in bulk and go and then sell them off for $10 more to a store in Manhattan or whatever the case may be.
Right.
So it's up to us to determine what that looks like, and we can do it differently on different cases as we see fit. But it's entirely possible to allow people to buy them in bulk because the person buying the original NFT may be somebody who actually owns a boutique somewhere or whatever, right? And that is what attracted them to buy it in the first place. So if I have a swimwear shop in Manhattan and I see that, hey, there's this psychedelic looking swimsuit that everybody is buzzing about, let me buy this and then resell it in my store. But I can still have NFTs on, OpenSea or wherever as well for some of the inventory. So it's a flexible model in that respect.
How do you, because we're still really early in this, so there's going to be a lot more use cases. How do you educate buyers on getting a digital wallet, getting cryptocurrency? Well, I guess there's ways now you can pay with your fiat money and
Yeah.
then that converts. But still there's that education component. What are you all working on in that arena to help level people up?
But essentially, this thing about moving around to different cities and so on, that is being done within the framework of a festival, a 3-week long festival in different cities. And that is also within the structure of a TV show production around NFTs and a documentary about NFTs. So all of that is the education piece, right? Capturing the development of this nascent NFT industry, going into the actual local communities and cities and so on, having workshops, photography workshops, graphic design workshops and so on from different people in the industry who are producing quality content. People want to know how they can make their NFTs look better. People want to know how they can capture images, right type of images, whether it's in fashion or whatever else. So it's about real world education rather than just creating a website, with a ton of information and wanting people to go and saturate their minds with that. It's easier if you're engaging people, physically bring them into a room, having, panel discussions and so on, fireside chats in different interesting places and so on. So that is our model for educating people on the higher potential of NFTs and actually demonstrating it in front of them, so to speak.
What is it about your background that inspires you to altruistically empower people and their own economics? What drove you to do something like this?
I'm laughing because I remember what popped into my mind first was a memory of my childhood running around in my parents' backyard with a wooden sword that I had made and a piece of coconut branch with a string on it, playing Robin Hood. Take from the rich and give to the poor.
Nice.
A childhood hero. But as I, grew up and so on, my faith, I've been, in church and so on all my life with my parents and so on. And, I have a strong faith in God and believe in God. And his heart is to uplift, the poor and the downtrodden and the disadvantaged and those kind of things. So, that's, in my view, the source of my heart to use what I do to empower the little guy, right? Not to bash the wealthy and so on. So no, I'm not stealing from the wealthy to give to the disadvantaged, but it's about creating extraordinary value for those who have wealth already, that they will part with some of that wealth to obtain that value, which I can then use economic models to filter down to those who don't have opportunity. So what we're literally creating is an alternative economic environment that the average guy can thrive in and actually create meaningful wealth and transformation.
Yeah, I like the concept of making the pie bigger. So say your pie is currently at 100 in the current model, say somebody controls 75%, there's the other 25. In order for that person to now move up to 26, the other person has to drop down to 74. But if you make the pie go from 100 to 150, then both can gain even more than they had before, which goes back to your exponential stacking concept. That synergy of the technology with the NFTs can create an empowerment model economically across the globe, which is really neat.
Yeah, absolutely.
What when? So you said this is going to kick off starting when?
The first event is in the fall, currently planned for October, mid-October into early November in New York City.
And then is that when the filming is? You're going to film the individual events and then create a documentary around it, or does the documentary already exist and that's part of the education process?
We start filming at the event, over those 3 weeks, but filming will continue beyond the actual event on an ongoing basis. So there will be about 3 events a year, but in between there, we're still filming, interviewing people, talking to people, and so on, capturing that content and producing what will be a weekly show, NFT show.
Is that going to be on YouTube or social?
Sorry?
How are you distributing the show? Where's that going to go out at?
The show will be on our own platform, but it will also be distributed to other aggregators and so on. So we expect it to be on iTunes and some other major platforms, but all of that is being negotiated at this point in time. So we can't confirm specific things.
I get it.
But the distribution will be quite significant. So it's not just like on a YouTube channel kind of scenario. It's at the the higher level.
Now, is your company NFTing itself to the people that are educating? Are you combining NFTs with the education process that you're doing?
Yes, because we are offering a whole different, whole wide range of NFTs, relevant and just to demonstrate what can be done with NFTs, right? Across different industry and channels. So we have fashion NFTs, technology NFTs, event NFTs, all sorts of different types of NFT use cases we'll be demonstrating as part of this whole festival event and education around the film productions and the shows that we're going to be doing.
We touched on a little bit with an art NFT and then secondary market value. What does a fashion or a technology NFT? What are a couple of those use cases?
Well, the one I described before with the bomber jacket, street fashion, right? Allowing other people to benefit from the resale of the fashion. Also layered into that same fashion NFT is experiential value. So beyond the licensing that allows you to go and resell that particular product, whoever buys the original also gets to participate in our live fashion shoot in New York in Times Square, with a top 10 fashion photographer, right? So that's an experience. You bring them in, put them up in accommodation and so on, and they get to live that supermodel lifestyle for a couple of days in New York City. So that
could also be an access thing, couldn't it? Like, so if I wanted that experience, but I was also wanting to be in that space and I had developed some of my own chops as a budding expert within that arena, and then got to meet you and meet the fashion photographer and other people from the industry, that could also be beneficial.
Yes, and we have behind the scenes entourage tickets that we, NFT tickets that we'll be selling as well for persons who did not buy the fashion to get to be the model, but who want to be, close behind the productions throughout the whole 3 weeks that we're going to be in New York City filming, and have access to, our private gatherings and so on with the team and what have you. So there are many different facets of what we're doing over those 3 weeks that can be accessed via NFTs that we'll be releasing.
And then what's an example of a technology NFT?
Okay, so within this whole smart city sustainable development aspect of what our company does, we work with select startups that have innovative solutions, technology solutions relevant to smart city development and economic impact and so on. One of those is a company that is building an autonomous freight drone. So that is one technology example. They're building a drone that can lift and transport a fully loaded 40-foot shipping container over 700 kilometers.
Oh, wow.
Right. So that's something that is in high demand. Now that word is getting out about that, they have a lot of interest in Africa and South America. Right. Colombia is very keen on it. They're the first country at a government level that wanted to get their hands on it, and they're kind of like the catalyst for it being developed in the first place.
That's
so
really
that is
cool.
one tech product that we'll be selling as an NFT. So what it is, we'll be selling the first one that comes off the production line as a collectible for high net worth individuals. Right? It will be specifically wrapped with our special branding tied to New York as the first city we're going into. And somebody will be able to buy that as a collector's item, piece of art, the first drone, the first autonomous freight drone, in the world. So it might be bought by a collector that maybe collects exotic vehicles and so on. But it could also be bought by someone in the shipping industry who actually wants to put it to work, right? Anyone can buy that, but that is going to be an auctioned as an NFT during the New York event we're doing.
That's fascinating. What now you mentioned smart cities a few times. Can you define, and I'm reading about it more and more. In your definition, how do you define a smart city, and why does it have value over what exists now?
Well, smart cities are about leveraging technology to make systems more efficient, for lowering expenses for the state, as well as, providing better service and solutions to the citizens of the city. It's about reducing the carbon footprint of the city and the citizens and so on. So bringing different technologies together, whether physical products or software, and combining all of those holistically positively impact carbon footprint, consumption of materials and so on, creating new jobs and opportunities. That is essentially what a smart city is supposed to accomplish. We just want to take that to a higher level in terms of economics, deliberately looking to build economic value into everything that is being done. So that's why our initiative is not called the Smart Cities Initiative, but the Smartr Cities Initiative. Okay, and our longer term goal is to actually create micro smart cities that demonstrate all of these different technologies in one environment. That municipalities and so on, and different developing nations and so on, they can send representatives and see how these different technologies work seamlessly together and can potentially be implemented into their own city environments and so on.
for people that are, they're listening to this and they're going, okay, I have a sense and I'm really keen. I can't get to New York right now. How do I start learning? Where would you point someone like that to?
Learning about NFTs.
So like you've taken the time. What I found is
Mhm.
oftentimes educating and getting from 0 to 1 is a mindset challenge, especially if you grew up or were raised in a community that had a mindset that doesn't necessarily either take on tech or things are always the way they were. Like I grew up in a very poor community, and breaking your back that's working hard, right, until your body fails. And being simple, poverty is often seen as something to be proud of, those dang rich people over there. So but for somebody that hears this and they go, okay, I want to do something different and I want to learn, what would you say to that person? Like obviously they're listening to this show, they can go to your website and hopefully get a chance to go to an event, but what else would you point them towards to start learning?
Well, they need to read, the periodicals online that speak to who is doing what is happening. Um, I would suggest that they spend time on some of the YouTube channels that are actually like yours, that are actually focused on helping people to understand what is going on in the industry and how it can apply to them, as opposed to channels that are just about, okay, buy this coin now, this one is going to the moon, and
Yeah.
all of that kind of stuff. Right? People can get distracted with that because they're saying, hey, how can I make some money quickly to pay my rent next month or whatever? I don't know. But they need to focus on content that is really helpful, that is kind of presented in a simple way that people can understand and is not too technical. But that's again the point of the kind of programming that we're looking to produce on an ongoing basis. So that's not in place yet. But in the interim, they can seek out some of the better channels on YouTube um, that would give them the kind of information that they need. And then they can take what they learned there, and they might have heard of a new website that provides X or Y from the YouTube channel, right? So they make a note of those things, and then they can go and spend some time looking at those websites and understanding the value that those people are bringing into the space and so on. So they can build a bigger picture of opportunity and potential when they put all the pieces together. But it's a process. I still do that every day. Only last night I discovered another blockchain platform um, that is claiming some fairly strong things, um, and they're focused on NFTs as well. And they're a fairly established company from 2012 or whatever, but I'd never heard of their blockchain. Um, so I've set up a meeting now to talk to them tomorrow to kind of get the skinny on what it is they're bringing to the table. And that's something I do on an ongoing basis. So the average person should be doing that as well. Not necessarily setting up a meeting or whatever, but at least kind of getting a sense of who else is coming out there with different value propositions that potentially can be a game changer. So I don't know, and I won't know until I have this meeting, what the true import of what they're doing is versus, using Ethereum or Stellar or whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, what I find is that it's usually a combination of different solutions brought together in a seamless fashion for the end user um, that will deliver optimal value rather than saying, well, I'm only using this network and anything that is not compatible with this network, I don't want to see. That's, in my view, the wrong attitude to have. So it's about integration at this point in time, because not one person is going to build an entire ecosystem of solutions to cover everything that you need um, to execute on a vision or a project or what have you.
For me, that's the most impactful thing that I got out of this conversation with you is thinking in terms of an ecosystem, not that one little slice that you might chase down, like trying to see what's going to trade and being super speculative, but understanding the players, understanding the technologies, and understanding the deeper potentialities And then with that educated mindset, finding where to drive value. So that was stellar. And you nailed it with maybe they can't set up a meeting, but a lot of people have heard of the Discord servers that started off in gaming, but they're also really big in this environment as well, where you can connect with the people that are thinking through this and have conversations with them. It's a lot easier access. It's free. Most of them have Discord servers, and that's another way to expand your network and get educated too.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate you taking the time. This is going to be a valuable conversation for people. Thank you for being the type of entrepreneur that is looking to do great things that benefits other people. And the best of luck to you on your New York events.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.